Hey everyone, Dave here. Sorry for leaving you hanging in episode two, but we are coming back for kind of episode two, part two. We're going to call it episode three, though, where we discuss the wide receivers and running backs leading up until March 14th. We know there's been some more transactions since then. We hope to dive into it again soon, but just wanted to say real quick, I appreciate everyone tuning in and hopefully you enjoy the episode. All right, we are back to drafts and drafts. You got Dave and Joe here. We're about to embark into the free agency acquisition of the Philadelphia Eagles, getting the Saquon Barkley. Joe, take it away.
Did you say embark? More like embarkly. Am I right? Oh, okay. Sorry. Anyways, so Saquon.
That was terrible.
Oh, it's so good. You better leave that shit in. Saquon. You better learn how to push Justin Hurts' tush, buddy. That's all I can say. I mean, you probably heard it already. If you're just like listening to us now, you just found us. It's probably too late, but Hurts and Saquon now make for statistically the highest level of squat recorded in an QB RB tandem in NFL history. So I think they have that going for them. It's hard to say any situation is a downgrade for Saquon. He just played in statistically a bottom three run blocking offensive line last season. They played in a bottom three point scoring offense last season. That he was the best receiver on that team last season. Sorry, Isaiah Hodgins. Sorry, Darius Slayton. But Saquon was the best receiver on that team. He was the only player. There was a game where they started Tommy Cutlets, where I'm pretty sure he amassed -6 passing yards. And so Saquon was the leading every yard getter on that team, passing, receiving, and rushing, because he had passed for 0 yards. Anyways, the point being, it's an upgrade. I think it's great for Saquon. I think it's the closest thing the Eagles can get to matching teams like the Jets with Breece Hall or the Falcons with Bijan or the Lions with Gibbs without spending an early first-round pick to match that, or a mid-first round pick. Like, there is no, again, we'll get to it when we do rookie drafts, but there is no first-round rookie running back in this year's class, from what I can tell. I'm not an expert, but from whatever all the experts are saying, there's no first-round rookie running back. So this is the best bet they could make. I don't think there's any running back trades open, so I think it's great for the Eagles. I think it's great for that Eagles offense. I think it's great for Saquon. I mean, that offensive line in Philadelphia, granted they lost Jason Kelce, but it's an upgrade for him. He's going to have just a better offense is going to give him more opportunities. Yeah, when he gets to the 1, he's probably not going to get the opportunity, but he's going to have more opportunities at the 5, more opportunities at the 10, more opportunities inside the 50 in positive yardage to pick up touchdowns on long gains, which he did last season. He had multiple 30-plus yard touchdown runs or 30-plus yard touchdown receptions. He's going to make that offense better. They already have A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. That's going to keep that defense honest. They're not going to be able to load the box with 8 defenders and cover A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith. So unless Saquon takes a true step back, which I don't see it happening, he's a freak athlete. He treats his body like a temple. He's probably the best, most athletic running back prospect we've ever seen in our lifetime. He's the perfect running back. I think he's a great fit and great for fantasy. What do you think?
Yeah, I think if you were a Saquon holder, so actually, let's just run through it too. First of all, just to comment on the Saquon Eagles thing, I'm ecstatic for it. I hope his touchdowns do not regress. I actually hope they do give him in on the 1. I get the success of the tush push, and maybe, yeah, sure, if it's a 4th and 1 and they've already gone through the first 3 plays and Saquon didn't get it done, fine. You tush push it in with the 4th and 1, you do it. But again, to your point, how good Saquon is, arguably, if you had on paper top 3 running back, maybe top 2 behind McCaffrey, but and I'd also say, like, if you're talking about true running backs, it's probably him and Henry are like the true running backs.
And Nick Chubb pre-injury, rest in peace.
Yeah, exactly. And so to me, all those things combined are just amazing for the Eagles that they haven't really ever had before, on top of having what's proven to be a really strong quarterback, an amazing wide receiver core. And so all that's really great. But I would say too, for all the people that own these players, Saquon, Josh Jacobs, Derrick Henry, Austin Eckler is a mid.
No, he's cooked. Forget Eckler.
So I'm actually going to leave it there. I think those three are the clear upgrades.
Tony Pollard.
Pause. I think it's Saquon, Josh Jacobs, Derrick Henry. You have those players, you're ecstatic. And my commentary on Derrick Henry is, wow. I mean,
How can you
every,
not be
every
excited about that?
everyone joked about how like, oh, the Ravens need to pick one guy. They have all these people, and like the only concern on Derrick Henry is Keaton Mitchell, which is like actually is kind of the same thing of like a slightly worse Tajay Spears into how that plays out to him and playing in certain downs and stuff like that. But man, they are a running force until I think it's going to open up so much for Lamar Jackson to be elite in the passing game. They have Zay. Obviously, I don't. Is OBJ still there this year? Do you know?
OBJ is a free agent.
Yeah. So
He signed a 1 year deal last
so
offseason.
I don't know what their whole true wide receiver core is, but like Zay is still again. If you talk about the same thing, Mark Andrews slash Isaiah Likely, Zay, Henry, Lamar
Rashad
again.
Bateman.
Oh, Rashad Bateman too. But yeah, so you have that. But I mean, Zay is clear premium to
Right,
Rashad
right, right.
Bateman.
I'm just naming who's still there.
Yeah, but I'm saying back to my original thing: wide receiver one, tight end one, RB one, locked in, and that's who you know are like your alphas, and everyone else is kind of secondary. And so I think that that's kind of the thing that you might see play out true too in with the Ravens. But all three of them, if you own in those guys, all their value went up, in my opinion,
Yeah.
and they all
You got
should
to be
be
excited
studs.
for Derrick Henry.
So, well, if you want to comment Derrick Henry, you can, but I'd love to jump to Tony Pollard, and you can
Yeah.
share your bull case on him because I don't know if I have one. You go.
Quick hit on Henry is like if you saw what Gus Edwards did last year, which was like 14 touchdowns in 3 games. I mean, I'm exaggerating. I think it was like 9 touchdowns in 8 games. But long story short, Gus Edwards is a trash can. He's literally made of human byproduct. He's not a good running back. He has like some absurd yards per carry and some infinitesimally small amount of carries. He's not a good running back. But what that Ravens offense does is the RPO keeps defense the run pass option, keeps defenses so honest to defending against Lamar, who's statistically probably been the best running back in the league for the last 5 years. Like he's that good. He's probably averaging 7-8 yards per carry. The only one better, it might be Devon Achane of the Worcester Riverins. But I'm sorry, no, but Lamar is so good as a rusher. The defense has to pay attention to Lamar. The lanes for Henry are going to be so fat. He's going to put people in hospitals. I think he's going to thrive in Baltimore. I don't think you can expect much more than one more year out of him. But what else can you really expect out of any running back than one season? I went into last year's hoping Rashad White was good for a year. If he does anything this year, I'm already in the positive. Like all I needed was one good season. You get one again. Henry's a different beast, but at this point in any running back's life cycle, you look at the next season, and I think for this year, how can you not expect a minimum of 12 touchdowns just by virtue of them saying, let's save Lamar from some punishment inside the 5 and give it to Henry for 2 or 3 plays? And he's going to punch him in. He's so much better than Gus. It's not even funny. So kudos to you. That was a great signing. On the opposite end, I think Eckler is kind of cooked, but we don't even need to talk about it. I think
Well, hit
we got
Pollard
way
first.
more.
Hit Pollard first. I have my own comments about Eckler, but hit Pollard first.
Hit Pod. Oh, Pollard.
Pollard.
Yeah. Okay. So on Pollard, we did talk about it a little bit. I think Pollard and Tajay are very similar frames. I think it's interesting that the Titans, who let go of Vrabel, who's a hard-nosed quarterback in terms of I want to play tough football, which sounds like ground and pound and play good defense and play sturdy all-around football, moved on to a new head coach and coordinator, only to bring in another running back. So now they have this weird two-headed monster at running back, which you would think that means they're taking some pressure off of Will Levis. It doesn't seem like a recipe for a hard-nosed football. It sounds like they're more like going to go through this versatile aerial ground attack where they're trying to put up a lot of offense. I don't know. But then they're 2 running back games. Tajay Spears showed that he can hang in the NFL even if he only has 1 ACL. Who cares? I'm a little surprised by the signing there. I thought for sure they'd bring another running back. I wasn't of the crowd that was like pay a first to get Tajay before it's too late. I don't think he's that good. But for them to bring in Pollard was kind of I'm sorry, rest in peace, Tajay. Like RB1 season lasted all of like 7 minutes. Like, what was longer, like Aaron Rodgers' Achilles tendon or Tajay Spears' RB1 season? Like, it's gone.
Yeah, I think so. So okay, I put Pollard and Tajay as the exact same thing, and so
Very similar, yeah.
but what is their team?
I think DeAndre Hopkins is still there. I think Traylon Burks, if he's healthy, you gotta be at least excited for him as a prospect. Like he was a solid prospect. He's been hurt, like, but yeah, I gotta imagine they're gonna add. Oh, they gotta add O line. Their entire, they're the probably a top 5 lowest graded passing protection line in the NFL last year. You
Yeah,
cannot possibly roll out that same exact offensive. You can't, if in their first 10 picks, you can't go receiver. You have to go O line. You have to address.
I
There's
agree, but they also have no quarterback. They also have
Will
no.
Levis, who's like they have to see what he
They
is.
have no real wide receiver. They have nothing. Of all the things that I would have signed if I were the Titans,
Oh,
with
yes,
with
I agree. This is a
with
weird signing.
with the aspirations you saw out of Tajay in the limited times you actually saw him play in the game. One, if you're letting Henry go, which I thought was kind of like, I think again as a Henry owner, I was expecting Henry was hopefully going to go somewhere else, and I was excited about that. Get to a better team where they actually need a running back that's going to be able to take 20, 22 touches a game for at least another year and have a competitive season. For Tajay to me was a situation where I honestly felt like no one's ever going to be Christian McCaffrey, but I thought he would be like a 50% off Christian McCaffrey where he could run well, he could take the dump off passes when McCaffrey was on the Panthers and he was just getting 200 yards a game because he was literally the only weapon and they were just literally using him 35 times a game. That's what I thought Tajay was going to become with the Titans. And I thought they're going to spend anything. And with this whole cap situation, I hadn't thought about it too much, but as I'm reflecting, it would have made sense to be either an acquisition piece in the QB. If you're like want to roll with Will Levis the same way that the Patriots rolled with the guy that is cut. He's already out of sight, out of mind. I don't know why I can't think of his name.
Elliott?
Huh?
Oh, Devontae Parker?
No, their quarterback.
Oh, Mac Jones.
Mac Jones, thank you. If the same way that the pass done with Mac Jones, if you want to stick that way with Will Levis, that's fine. But like D Hop isn't quite D Hop. He's kind of hit that cliff. Like he had a couple good games, sure, with some busted coverage. Maybe you can get 1,000-yard season out of him. Treylon Burks, I know Homer, you're gonna be like Treylon Burks.
Homer, you the one who's from Arkansas, so fucking pound
I'm
sand
not
with that.
from living here,
I know.
here are two different things.
Treylon Burks is pride of Arkansas.
Listen,
so
Treylon Burks is. We'll see. It's a TBD on Treylon Burks, and so it's there's so many things that are just so not right with the Titans to actually be like, wow, we have a competitive team to go spend to have a second good running back is
You're
bizarre.
so right.
And their defense was
that way.
like okay. But if again, I know the only other defense you talked about today is actually the Falcons. I would have taken the Falcons. I don't know the stats. I don't know the stats at all. I would have taken from what I had seen and I watch. Just so you know what I watch. I watch Red Zone every Sunday religiously. I see the entire thing. I watch every Thursday, Monday. I am religious about all those things. But I do not watch tape. I do not watch the full games for a lot of the Sunday games. But I do watch Red Zone religiously. And I check a lot of the stat lines of what was kind of happening. I would have taken the Falcons defense over the Titans defense, and they just fired Vrabel, to your point, who is that ground and pound defensive minded coach. I don't know what we're doing because your defense wasn't amazing. I can't name one stud on the Titans defense, which is bizarre for someone that like
a single player on defense.
Yeah, if you're like gonna like say okay, you don't need to allocate there either. So we're in this weird little flux thing where why? And so then if, again, my best two players right now to me on paper are my two running backs. So what the fuck are we gonna do? This feels like you know what this feels like? Am I right in this saying this? I guess minus the defense side, but just on the pure offensive side. Pickens is good though. But like, yeah, it's basically the Steelers. It's Najee and Jalen Warren. Those are like their studs. And like, yeah, we're just gonna we're just going to figure out stuff with you. The quarterbacks kind of suck. The wide receivers, we're not really going to focus on them. Our defense, they have TJ Watt, which I was thinking
Right.
of, but like
It's
TJ Watt is
very,
good. It's similar,
very
but
similar
like the Steelers are like, again, the Steelers are like twice as good as even with the it's like a bad version of the Steelers, like a really bad version of the Steelers.
I think DeAndre Hopkins and George Pickens are a lot closer in skill level than you're
Sure,
not
sure,
giving
sure. No,
Hopkins enough
I'm
credit.
also viewing youth first old, but yeah, like
Yeah.
yeah, sure. Traylon Burks is Deontay Johnson.
Right.
DeAndre Hopkins is George Pickens, sure, but at the same time, like you're it's just a bad version of the Steelers. And what are we gonna do for next year? Like, so this year's just gonna be a wash, and we're gonna hopefully figure out the year after. But then Pollard's gonna be another year older. Like, I think Pollard might be 30 by then. Like,
he's 26 right now, but yeah.
Okay.
I still don't. You made a point that I never even thought. I only thought about fantasy ramifications. I never thought of the fact that what are they doing signing a running back when they have so many holes in that team? I think we've already again talked about the Titans for just like the Steelers budget version of the Steelers. We've talked about the Titans for way too long. So let's move on to the next one.
Let's go.
Austin Eckler.
I do want to hit Eckler. So Eckler, I love for this one reason. This feels like the best combination of what they've been putting out there running back, and their running backs have actually kind of performed. I think their O-line, this is just a me gut check, like my assumption. I think their O-line is probably in the top half of the league. It feels like that with what they've been able to put out there for Gibson and Robinson and everyone else. And there's another guy I had. Who is
Jerry McLaurin?
No. There's another
Darius Geis.
Is that him?
You had him. It was
I had him. No,
like a salt and battery.
No, it wasn't him. Then it was the other guy behind Gibson. Now it's like their little catch back.
Oh, Jerick McKinnon or something,
yes,
or J.D. McKissick.
J.D. McKissick. Thank you. Yeah. Yes, like I put Gibson McKissick kind of together. Gibson's gone. I think McKissick's not gone. Like that kind of feels good for Eckler. Like that's what they've been doing. It's been with two different people. If you cannot do it with one, and again, I know there's like Eckler got hurt with the high ankle sprain early last season. He sucked. And for me, just a side note there as well, in a redraft league, I took him second overall. It was Jefferson. And then I was like, oh, should I go McCaffrey? Should I go Eckler? I was like, I'm going to go Eckler because I don't want to put too much stock in McCaffrey. He's had too many good seasons. Like, he's due for a bust.
You had Eckler too. You had Eckler in both leagues.
I know. Well, I had McCaffrey in both leagues. So I was like, I'm going RB here. I'm getting here RB. I didn't love Chase for some reason in my head. And I was like, I'm going RB.
Smart.
And so I went Eckler like an idiot, a dunce. If I had gone McCaffrey, I'd probably been the championship. Stupid. Either way, I love the situation from that standpoint into how running backs have been used in Washington for now like 3 years. And so to that point, I'm excited for the next couple of years. Do I think Eckler can do it? I don't know. I think he came off of such a dominant 2022 season to have such a terrible 2023 season. I'm optimistic he can bounce back. To me, where Eckler is, and this is just you, me, right? Eckler was never quite as dominant as McCaffrey. However, 2 and 3 years ago, Eckler was on par where people was like, holy shit, it's like Eckler McCaffrey as like the studs.
Right. I agree with you. We're like,
but it feels like where McCaffrey was that first, McCaffrey had the injury seasons where everyone was like, oh, I don't know. Like he's just, he has so much volume and he's so frail. Like he can't stay healthy for a season. That to me is where I'm at on Eckler. And I'm trying to, and again, it feels a little homer to say that, but at the same time, I'm kind of in the back of my mind, like if I'm in the 102, I'm not drafting Eckler ever. But like if I was at
like a 4th, 5th round pick.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Okay. I was gonna say if I was like the
Eckler goes undrafted.
If I was at like the 3-4 turn or the 4-5 turn, I'm probably grabbing Eckler every single time. Really excited about it because and I don't know where the actual drop value is, but wherever if he starts scaling back to where he's like RB 10, 15, 18 coming off the board, man, am I drafting him. And because I think I'm now in that camp where it is like McCaffrey can't be healthy. And you mentioned actually at the top of the show, and this might be a new episode now. I don't know where we're at as far as where we're going to cut this. I thought to make a new intro. It's fine. We got to have a whole different beer, so you got to have a whole different beer. You didn't think I was through, Joe. But anyways, you go back to the told you said the first of the hour where you talked about from the trade side, like Kirk being such a big free agency transaction that we've seen in such a long time, I put Christian McCaffrey in the same level. Like for Christian
Mhm.
McCaffrey to go, and I know he's not a quarterback, but like for a non-quarterback to be that significant of a signing, it almost goes back to like Randy Moss going to the Patriots after how dominant he was as a Viking. Like I had when I was a kid a Randy Moss Vikings poster because he was so good, and like to then have him as a Patriot for a few years was incredible. So
Yeah.
it's kind of the same way I view McCaffrey, and it's almost to the like not to the same level I view Eckler right now at all, but it's this weird vibe where it's like, is he injury prone? Was that season just a dud? Or was it like, is that what Eckler is now and we should just not trust this guy? And so for me, I'm excited, but I still have all my doubts on the same vein because the Commanders are another bad version of the Steelers. Like it's like Steelers, Commanders, what did we just talk about? The Titans. It's yeah,
Yeah.
Steelers, Commanders, Titans, and that's the ranking. And the Commanders are a nice little middle ground there. They really just have to solve their quarterback issue. But I mean, again, if you put it on paper, if you have, I think they just let go of Logan Thomas. They have the rookie that I think I have in my team, but they have like now.
Zach Ertz now. They just signed Zach Ertz.
Oh, they signed Zach Ertz too. So they signed Zach Ertz. They have a sophomore tight end. They have Terry McLaurin, Jahan Dotson. You now have Eckler. I think Brian Robinson's still
They're
there.
gonna draft. Yeah, Brian Robinson's gonna be the lead back.
There
No
you go.
disrespect back there. Dave, Dave, Dave. Do you want to know what Austin Eckler's ADP is right now on Underdog?
Yeah, I do.
He's currently going the end of the 7th round.
Wow, that's value. I would.
Even like
Where's B Rob going?
B Rob's going 6 picks after Eckler.
Okay, that's my
You're
point.
right.
My
You're
point.
right.
Eckler's up Shamir back, but my
Eckler's being drafted ahead of Brian Robinson, which I think is. I think. Yeah, I think Eckler has a higher ceiling than B Rob. I think we saw B Rob's ceiling last season, where he took the majority of the work
Yep.
over Antonio Gibson. So I think, if anything, if Eckler were to return to form, like you're saying, he has a much higher ceiling than what Robinson's ceiling outcome is. So I think you're right in saying you'd rather take the risk on Eckler top 12, top 6 season again versus what's Brian Robinson's ceiling, a top 18 season. So
right, and so the piece that I'll add there real quick. I have to plug my headset in a second. But the piece that I'll add there real quick is you look at that team. Again, where's their first pick? Is it like the 103, 104?
I want to do. They're going to get a new quarterback.
Yeah. So you have that situation. This feels almost like a better version of the Texans.
Yes, I knew you were going to say that. I mean, Terry McLaurin is such a phenomenal receiver. I cannot wait.
And Jahan Dotson, I think, can be a phenomenal receiver.
I think Jahan Dotson sucks, but
I don't think he can be a wide receiver 1, but he could be a great wide receiver 2 with the right quarterback.
He's like Devontae Parker. I think he's like a Devontae Parker.
Ooh.
It's way smaller, but like just like that type of like
that's worse than I was projecting. But okay, I was gonna say like a
Devontae Parker's been a solid receiver for many years. He's just been nothing sexy. He's just
sure.
a guy.
Okay, I'll take a not sexy. Yes, a not sexy 70% of Devontae Smith, Jalen Waddle, all those T Higgins. Like sure.
Yeah.
Yes, like a 70% of that. Yeah, that's exactly where I think Jahan Dotson lives. So that's true. But yeah, you now have a lot of good running back potential. You have an old, potentially done Ertz, but you also have a really good sophomore coming out there too. You have really good wide receivers. If you're that rookie quarterback coming in and you can get some semblance of like discipline, good coaching coming in there and like bringing you the NFL in the right way, man, they could literally be the Texans of last year is now what's going to become the Commanders. So that's why I'm bullish on Eckler.
Yeah. Okay. I can't argue with that. All right, we have a technological issue going on right now. Technicality. Some technical issues. Oh, you're all plugged in.
We're back.
All right.
So I don't really have anything else.
Running backs. There's no other. I mean, the wide receivers is. We could go through this in like 5-10 minutes of just like speculative where we want to see the wide receivers.
Can I bring up one thing? Can I bring up one thing real
Yeah.
quick that's like relevant to you and me?
Oh, okay. Oh, are you sad?
What the fuck are the Patriots doing?
Oh my
Why are
god.
we signing Antonio Gibson? Why are we re-signing Kendrick Bourne?
Okay, well,
I'm
Kendrick
actually
Bourne.
okay with getting Jacoby Brissett as a backup. That's okay. But like, what what are we doing? Like, what are the Patriots actually trying to accomplish? Talk about a team that has just gone to this like weird death spiral of like, oh, I heard you in the news a few times. You were on Sports Center a couple times, maybe a couple of years ago. But we're gonna offer you $30 million. How does that sound, son? $30 million. You just sound like a
Those
name that I need to
contracts are
have.
weird now. We can spend a whole episode on how important contracts are now, though. Like, because we talked about it earlier. I think this is good for the average listener. Is like you don't realize how like when it comes to running back, and this is a segue into a future episode. Contract is actually the most important thing over. I mean, besides opportunity to like score fantasy points, but contract means more than anything else. Like, which is why the whole Jonathan Taylor news last summer was such a huge deal when he went from unsigned to a 3 year, 42 to whatever it was, $42 million deal. Just changed the outlook on him tremendously. Which is like we should probably talk about like when you were talking about like I'm very surprised, and I think it speaks volumes to the current 2024 rookie running back class to how poor it must be. If the first day of tampering period we had Tony Pollard, Saquon Barkley, Josh Jacobs, Derrick Henry, you know, every single free agent running back, DeAndre Swift, who we didn't even talk about, signed a contract within 4 hours. Besides Henry was a day later.
Mm-hmm.
Within 4 hours, signed a new contract. It's so, and they're all 3 years, $25 million guaranteed, $40 million. These are other than Miles Sanders, most running backs who get these kinds of contracts play, and they play for at least 2 years. So like this is a very important thing for you dynasty owners out there who are trying to make decisions on how do I rebuild my RB room this offseason. And it's like, well, you could try to do it in the draft, but we don't
Oh,
even
it's
know
gonna
if
be.
trade.
I can't even imagine this. Like, it's been so exciting as a fan and like a fantasy player. But like, if you're in a redraft league, I can't even imagine you walking into the redraft room and being like, yeah, I remember DeAndre Swift having a great season last season. I'm going to take him with the Eagles. It's like, no, he's not there. All right, well, I
Yeah.
want Austin Eckler in the third. Yeah, he's actually like a seventh, eighth round pick, and he's with the Commanders. Like,
Yeah.
what? It's like,
Is Eckler
it's
in our
crazy.
draft? Where is he?
And we didn't even talk about it too. I know it's still kind of a rumor, but you also heard the Pats are trying to get Ridley.
Yeah, I think
Like,
I
what? Like,
I
it's
get
just
it.
like, no, 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 shut up. No, fuck that. We do not get it. That is insane. That is asinine. What are we
Why?
doing?
Tell me. Okay, before you even let's let all the audience know that you are also the one who wanted the Patriots to draft Marvin Harrison Jr. to the Pats and then go sign East bumfuck cute quarterback, any quarterback to throw to him instead of going to get a franchise quarterback.
You sign Marvin Harrison Jr. and you go and spend on Kirk fucking Cousins for 4 years, and you have 4 years to go draft your rookie and
You
start
think
playing
that's
out
enough?
this fucking Packers routine where it goes Brett Favre and then it goes Aaron Rodgers and now it's Mr. Love. Like, yeah, you fucking do that so that you have some semblance of competition with how good your defense is, because you're losing games by single digits on a single
You're
digit
right.
total score. Your defense
Okay.
is the greatest defense in the NFL. Not even questionable how good that fucking defense was. And the offense was that fucking shit that we couldn't score 10 points to win a fucking game. You go get some offense, spend on the QB, because you know what? There isn't a guess on the QB. There isn't like, oh, we don't know whether we can or can't play when you go buy a QB, right? It's like, can I have a decent system? Can you partner together to actually solve the solution? It's not hard. That's the easy part. But you go do that. You have the pick to go get Marvin Harrison, to have that locked in too, with some other like, tertiary pieces in the wide receiver room. Fine, you can have Kendrick Bourne. I don't give a shit. We had it.
Demario Douglas. Demario Douglas.
Yeah, we still have a decent tight end. Like, we have the pieces to do it. Just the only thing that you literally, and we still have Ramondre Stevenson, like him coming back. Like, there is just so much good that all you really need, like, literally just add on Marvin Harrison and Kirk Cousins to the Patriots, and I really wonder how good or bad we are. We're at least a playoff contender.
No,
That's
we're
it.
not. Not with Josh Allen and Tua and the Dolphins in our division.
You still can get two. You can get 3 teams in from a division.
Don't forget Aaron Rodgers and Garrett Wilson and Brees Hall. That defense is pretty
I'm not
stout as
worried.
well.
I'm not worried. I'm not worried.
Yeah. I just think so the reason I brought that up, chat, was I think it's the opposite philosophy of I don't want to draft Marvin Harrison, bring in a retread bum QB with no Achilles tendon, wander Marv's prime for 2 years.
That's not his
Let
prime. His
Kirk
prime is
go.
not 2 years in. That's not his prime.
And then we let Kirk go because he's fucking washed at 38 years old. We then go sign Dak Prescott, who's a free agent at 33. He's cooked for 2 more years. And then we're like, fuck, okay, let's go get a quarterback. And Marv's like, I'm not resigning. And then we're like, oh, fuck, we wasted 5 years of the best receiver in our generation, according to like, I mean, I don't know, I'm not going to watch film, but Marvin Harris is supposed to be like the best prospect since Calvin Johnson. And we're going to waste his prime. He's 26 years old. He's going to go leave the Pats and go sign with fucking the Houston Texans and play with CJ Stroud. And it's like, we could have had all we have to do is draft Jaden Daniels or Drake May, sign Calvin Ridley as a stopgap option that gives them a legitimate professional receiving target. Go draft Adonai Mitchell in the early second. Go draft Tez Walker. Go draft Lad McCon. I don't care who it is. Draft whoever the Patriots.
Who was the scrub that we drafted like 4 years ago that didn't pan out as a rookie?
N'Keal Harry. It was N'Keal Harry. I know
like,
you're talking about.
What? No, that's not how it works, Joe. That's literally not how it works.
That's why we don't draft Marvin Harrison there, because that's what happens.
You think Marvin Harrison is N'Keal Harry all over again? That's just
no. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. Like, go get your franchise QB and then figure out your receivers. Because if you have a franchise QB, every receiver looks good. Look at Green Bay. None of those receivers are actually statistically very good receivers. But Jordan Love's been so good.
I would have taken Russell Wilson. I would have taken Baker Mayfield. I would have taken Kirk Cousins. I tell you what, as a Patriots fan, not in a fantasy, I would have taken Justin fucking Fields. Give me anyone.
Justin Fields sucks.
He does.
He's
suck.
a bad
He does suck. He does suck. He does suck. But like, at least it would show me that you're trying to do something. I think trying to hit on a QB as a rookie to come in and play is so fucking hard. Like CJ Stroud doesn't happen. It's just something that doesn't.
Nothing gets you more value than hitting on quarterback. Nothing maximizes your franchise value in terms of like how you elevate your squad.
Sure.
You're right. When you hit on that, you hit that Mahomes, the rest of the shit doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It does.
Yeah,
but
I know. Okay, let's move on.
Anyways, yeah. I think we covered everything. I mean, tight ends doesn't seem like much of a topic, to be honest. No disrespect to the tight end.
Well, the only wide receiver that I really want to hit on that I thought was a big thing that's happened so far was T. Higgins getting franchise tagged, but then requesting a trade.
That's a good one. I did want to talk about that.
I sent an offer to so in our league, I do not have T. Higgins. I sent an offer for him. I sent an offer of a second and a third. And I sent that because the owner acquired T. Higgins alongside 2 firsts and I think a second to give up Brees Hall and like a third and some other crap. And so I didn't really know. Like I even said, I can't believe you got 2 firsts and T. Higgins thrown in. And this was when T. Higgins had a bad start to the season. Last season, it is what it is. So I threw out a second and a third, just being like, he just got tagged. He just requested a trade right after. This isn't a scenario where I don't know where these managers landed on. It's also a double-headed manager where basically there's co-managers. So like they can be conflict, there can be disagreement, and we've seen it before actually in our league. And so I said the second and the third, and they came back and they're like, "Oh, I know you're on this podcast now, and
you need some content."
you're just lowballing us now like you're some big shot or something like that. I was like, no, I said, I genuinely was trying to sense a feel of where you're at. I said, if I'm miles away, I'm not interested. If I'm sitting in the nosebleeds and I need to get down to, and I'm in the stadium, I need to get down to the field to make the agreement, then let's have a conversation. But it was just a first pass. And they came back with like, okay, makes a lot more sense. Yeah, you're probably just outside the stadium, like at the parking lot down the street. And I was like, Okay, well, if you
That's
guys want to
funny.
talk about it, let's talk about it. But I think T. Higgins is so interesting because he had such a bad season with bad quarterbacks. Burrow had a bad, like, it was just a weird Bengals
He was
season.
banged up. The Bengals are banged
It's
up.
almost the Eckler-esque thing. And again, T. Higgins is kind of this profiled out guy where it's like, I think we're in a weird stage from a fantasy and football perspective where no one properly knows how, especially after how good the 2022 season is. So 2 years ago, for the Devontae Smith, the T. Higgins, the Jalen Waddles, where we saw a massive payment for Jalen Waddle in our league, in a dynasty league. I don't know if people know how to value them. And I also don't know if people know how to value them if they actually go to a different team. Be it that they're going to be amazing or they're actually going to flop because they're on their own. Where we saw a good example of this is Juju. Juju, it's a little bit older for us, but it's probably like the first season we started where Juju had a breakout season. Like Juju was like, holy shit,
You was wide receiver one.
Juju is amazing. And then Juju actually broke out on his own. It's like, holy shit, Juju sucks without AJ Brown. And he was just, you never really heard from Juju ever again. He was kind of this mid tier, top 36 maybe wide receiver. And so I find that super interesting in the realm of this Higgins, Waddle, Devontae Smith, all these second tier guys, or second, technically wide receiver options on their team, but could be a wide receiver one for a different team. So for me, I found that super interesting from a trade perspective, dynasty perspective, that A, got tagged, which is a great payday, $22 million, whatever it is. But then right after, he's like, he requested that trade. And so immediately I made the offer. I don't know what it would take to actually truly get it done. I don't know if I'd spend much more than a first in this ambiguity round of, like, we've seen players sit out a whole season and that goes really, really bad. We've seen some people
Oh, Le'Veon Bell. Yeah.
end up getting their trades or whatever it is, and it still is shit. So like, there's a lot of ambiguity there. So I think I'd be willing to pay for it, but it has to be the right cost. But again, probably not paying more than a first. But either way, I thought that that was such a super interesting dynamic from a fantasy perspective.
Yeah, I think the Beavers are right in telling you that actually they were pretty nice to you by saying you were in the parking lot
Well,
because I
initially
think
they said I was out of pocket.
you're out of state. I think you're out of state. Like I think T Hoggins. That's you should call him T Hoggins. T Hoggins. T Higgins is a phenomenal real life receiver. The problem is he's stuck behind Jamar Chase, and Jamar Chase is that much better. Speaking of which, I want to before we get, I'll run a trade offer I made for Jamar Chase last week by you. See what the audience thinks. But I think it's so tough to value. I think if you were really going to make a legitimate offer for him, it would probably have to involve aforementioned George Pickens. And that's a real conversation. Like, who do you like better, George Pickens or T. Higgins? They're probably about the same age. I think T. Higgins is 25, Pickens is 24. T. Higgins has uncertainty at QB, but likely going to a situation where he'll be wide receiver one. I think George Pickens has some uncertainty around his skill level as a receiver, but he has all of the ancillary pieces that make him a great athlete. So it's like,
It's 25 versus 23, just so you know.
Okay, yeah. So it's like, oh. I can't mute this. Anyways, I can, but it's over here. So I think that's a good conversation. I think T. Higgins is a better receiver than Pickens, slightly, but a worse situation in terms of target opportunity. But he could apparently get traded. Imagine if he gets traded to the Jaguars and he's now the wide receiver one there. Like, and he's with his old quarterback, or he gets traded to the Titans, who he talked about, and like D Hop walks and then he becomes there's plenty of opportunity for him to become the wide receiver one somewhere else. It's just hard to really value him. I do think a second and third is a little light because I think T Higgins went at the 203 in our draft in 2020.
Yeah, you're right. It was too light. The intention was to see how spooked they were and if they were up to date on their news. It wasn't. I would have been shocked if I got it for a second and a third. It would have been amazing. Because to me, that was like a no-brainer on my side. And it was like maybe either they had more information that was more doom and gloom than I knew that they would have accepted, or they were just so spooked by it. But you're right. it really was just a hey, let's intro this conversation and see where it goes. Because
Worst thing is taken out,
right,
right?
and I don't and I
Worst
don't
thing an offer.
and I don't know how many people are currently seeking T Higgins. And it also
Yeah.
opens up just from a we'll kind of finish it here, but it also opens up when you're in the dynasty setting. So a whole other episode we could have is like, what is your team trying to do? Are you in rebuild or are you going for it? And I texted them that, and their fucking answer I got to tell you real quick on air,
Please.
because it was too funny. I said my exact words. I said, "What's your guys' move? Are you adding or subtracting?" And I said, and then I even reiterate to compete question mark. They said twice, always moving forward. And I was like, all right, like, are you always trying to compete
That's so
now?
political.
Are you always trying to compete now? And then Sal's followed up with multiplying. I was like, all right, like, I said adding or subtracting is like ever multiplying.
I fucking love them. Whenever
Yeah,
they text me, it like brightens my day
you
because
know,
it's always like lighthearted and witty.
and the
Like
funny thing
I
is
think
that I do love too as a co-manager relationship. One, I also stick true to this. If you're Android, that's fine. And if you have a mixture of Android people, that's fine too. But if like our league is like, if you had Android phones, you would not be allowed in the group chat, and you would really
yeah,
probably not be allowed in the league just from a communication standpoint. These two flock in communication together. Like I'd
yeah,
say 90% of my conversations with them about anything league related is both of them in a group chat. And then occasionally they'll have their side chat and I'll talk to one on the phone, but most times it's dual on one, which can be intimidating too, but at the same time it's great because like they're actually following through as being true co-managers versus like one guy slacking off, one making a dumb move, and they're just really engaged there, which is really really good to see. But it also is really
it's
frustrating because now I have two guys also thinking about it, like, whoa, was that a good offer? Was it not? And hopefully they contradict sometimes, but they are pretty solid managers that they usually don't. So, Sal and Alex, if you're watching, take the second in a second.
I think they're great managers. Honestly, I have so much fun talking strategy with them because they are in other leagues too. So sometimes they'll be like, "Hey, Sults, what are you thinking about this? Like different league, don't worry about it." And it's nice talking shop. Like they're of the people who I don't know personally. Probably my two favorite in the league. Um, so if you guys want to trade me Tyreek Hill, like that's totally cool. No, but it's funny. They came to me today. They're like, "What do you want for what would you offer for Tyreek Hill hypothetically?" And I'm just like, I'm just not really right now. I'd be like, he'd be a great bench piece for me. Like I don't need him. Joking, obviously, but like that stirred up some conversation around like what my team's needs are versus their team, and I'm like, I don't think Tyreek Hill changes my team that much. I don't think it doesn't hurt my team. Doesn't make it any worse. Obviously, it doesn't make it that much better. Um,
They
and
need talk about a team that needs running backs. That's why I'm like, that was the other thing too. Was I was also watching free agency. I mean, this is maybe too
you
much
should
tea.
you should package Eckler in a second for T Higgins. That's a fair trade.
This was almost too much tea, but yeah, I was watching their free agency go, right? Their team is Kyron, which I think, again, we're optimistic he's still going to be good, but we've seen this happen before with James Robinson,
I
Damian
was
Pierce.
the original Kyron owner. That was me.
Yeah, but
Who dropped Kyron.
we've seen it happen so many times before where these out of the blue running backs have actually been good or bad and then or amazing,
Right.
then petered out. So assuming Kyron's still good though, they have B Rob, which is now we are assuming a second tier running back. They had Antonio Gibson as well, who's now at the Patriots behind Ramondre Stevenson most likely. They have Latavius Murray, Deneric Prince, Latavius Murray, and Jordan Mason.
They have Aaron Jones too, right?
No.
They have Aaron Jones.
They do. He's in a flex spot. You're right. They still have Aaron Jones. Yeah. So I guess they still technically have Aaron Jones as their other back too. But it's like
they're in a weird spot.
They're in a wicked weird spot. But
I'm sorry, the whole league's in a weird spot.
Sure. Well, other than you and Brent. But like, yeah, and then their wide receivers are Tyreek, Stephon Diggs. They have Travis Kelce and T. Higgins. Like they have studs, and then also Joe Burrow as quarterback. Like, but they're also some old studs, old ass studs. Right. Like, because Kelce could retire. Like,
all 30 plus.
They really should rebuild. But like, they really should rebuild. Holy shit, their team is awful.
But okay, I know we're really long. We should do a whole episode on trade propositions. But since we're talking trade offers, and I know Gilday loves podcasts.
Wait, again, tangentile. This should be the show is called Tangents.
I know. We need to, guys. We're gonna do a full episode on trade offers and how you make trades get done.
And
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 like,
at episode 10, we're gonna do a whole show of rename the pod.
yeah,
Every show, every episode, it's actually gonna be a totally different named podcast, and then we're just gonna keep changing it. And then in episode 10, you get to pick which one sticks.
So keep in mind, this guy who I made this offer to doesn't have any 2024 picks, doesn't have any 2025 picks, and his only picks in 2026 are a third and a fourth. So I offered him Rashad White, Nico Collins, and the 112 for Jamar Chase. And I was like, yeah, probably not my best offer I could make, but it's an initial offer. And he was like, it's good. It is a good offer. I don't want to take it. I was like, yeah, I don't expect you to want to take it. And so I ponied up. I bumped the 112 up to the 104. I took out Nico. I added Calvin Ridley, and I added Amari Cooper. So now it's Rashad White, Amari Cooper, Calvin Ridley, and the 104. So it's 4 assets for one. I'm like, I know what it looks like. And I'm not saying it's like the best trade of all time, but it's a trade of all time. And it's funny seeing the dynamic between like, yes, he has such a good team, like an incredible team. It's just so shallow. Like his wide receivers are Chase, Waddle, and AJ Brown. And that's it. Like, yeah, Christian Watson we hope for, but there's not a single other player.
If I were you, though, just as a side note, I don't. He has an older team. I have to look at his team. I'm looking at your team right now, though. You have the pieces to get that deal done, and like not hurt your team, because you still have combinations of A-Chain, and you have young wide receivers that you could also throw in there. Drake London, Treylon Burks, JSN. At least on the JSN front, JSN is such a question mark to me personally, which is a totally different conversation. But like, to Matt, it might be juicy. Like, oh, that's young. He got picked like at the 102 or 103. Like, that might be a good piece to almost sell high. And if you could replace your position on the team with JSN and maybe get rid of an extra running back if you're banking whoever you're banking or not banking on, and you also add in that first, like, I mean, that would be a hard one to pass up.
The hard thing is, like, from a value standpoint, I know I have to lose the trade to get Jamar Chase. I'm not trying to tell Matt, like, let me make this a fair trade with you.
Yeah, it's either lose a trade now or wait 2 years.
Right. And so at the same time, I'm like, I also am trading from a position of power in terms of I do have depth on paper. On paper, anything can happen. Tomorrow, the Jaguars could go out and trade for Christian McCaffrey. Like, there's something ridiculous and ETN gets crushed. Or the Bucks could very well go out and draft Trey Benson from Florida State and crush Rashad White. Of course, my depth is shallow, and then like Nico Collins could be a one-hit wonder. Trey McBride could be a one-hit wonder. There's so many things that change year to year.
I don't think Trey McBride's a one-hit wonder, but if you do think that, let me know. I'll trade you something for him.
No, but you know what I mean? Like, where it's like a lot of these guys come out of nowhere where it feels like I'm trading from a position of power where like I should be able to consolidate assets, but it's really a game of chess with like Matt knows deep down that it's fair, but also it's not the best, probably not the most optimal trade for his starting lineup. But at the same time, I recognize that he has no depth, he has no picks. If he gets like you said, if he gets FOMO during the draft, getting that 104 or that 112 or both is going to like satisfy that itch. So I'm trying to like gamesmanship this way into a trade. You're muted.
I know. But thank you. That's what I would do was on the 104 and the 112. I'd almost package those. You could probably put both of them. Imagine, I mean, here's me. To know the surety of Jamar Chase in the next 5 years, if I could trade the 104 and 112 and like a JSN or even a Treylon Burks, I mean, if you could part with Treylon Burks, I mean, Drake London's almost of the three, Drake, Treylon, and JSN.
I would go Drake, JSN, then Treylon Burks.
Yeah, same. So if I can part with Treylon, great. If I can't, I would definitely do JSN. But if I could get rid of JSN and 2 first this year, the 4 and the 12, because also knowing you have the 1 to lock in Marvin Harrison and Jamar Chase. Now your future trade value, you could go acquire any running back you want if you lost a running back. Anyone. Well, you can acquire, especially because I also know you have more first in your pocket for future years too. This is also where like your team is borderline league breaking.
If you go back, I pulled together a screenshot of my team from 3 years ago or 2 years ago,
Yeah.
and you saw my roster. I'm gonna read you my starting lineup at the end of the 2021 season. Keep in mind, we just finished the 2023 season, but this is to give it everyone thinks, oh, you play in a league with. I'm sorry, you play in a league with a home league with guys who are idiots. Like, no wonder you have such a stacked team. And it's like, no, I've been prioritizing draft picks for 3 years. This is a culmination of picks that have been acquired. My starting lineup was Lamar Jackson. My running backs were Chase Edmonds and Mike Davis. My wide receivers were Mike Williams and Odell Beckham Jr. Granted, Calvin Ridley was suspended. My tight end was Rob Gronkowski. My flex was Zach Ertz. And on my bench, granted, was good. I had Leonard Fournette. And I had Nico Collins, who I'd picked up off waivers from somebody else in our league, dropped him. Michael Thomas was on IR. Chris Carson was on IR. Both have not panned out. But it's like at the time,
And ETN in your taxi.
and Travis Etienne was in my taxi, who I had traded for. He was injured for the whole year. So I made a ball again. It sounds obvious now, but he got hurt his rookie season, and I traded my first round pick for Travis Etienne.
Yep.
So it was a gutsy trade, I would say. And I had just traded away with Christian McCaffrey for 3 firsts. So if you look at my picks, I have 222 firsts, I have 323 firsts, and 224 firsts. Since then, I've added CD Lamb, I've added Devon A-Chain, I've added Jahmyr Gibbs, I've added Jackson Smith and Jigba, I've added Drake London. Like, I've added all these pieces. Nico Collins evolved, Trey McBride evolved, Rashad White evolved. Like, there's every team in our league that you look at and you go, this team's nowhere to be close. They're literally one trade and one pickup away from being a powerhouse dynasty team. If you looked at Brent's team 3 years ago, we would go, Brent's team's never going to be stopped. And now his team's still really good.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. Like, I remember that team and I was like, I think it was, I didn't question it because we had just seen Brent go through it for the first 2 years, where Brent basically tanked for 2 years and was like selling everything at as much value as he could get and was getting all these picks. And then his picks, I will also say his picks hit, because you've also commented, I'm not, just so you guys all know, I'm not a huge college scout. I don't know, like, coming out who's projected to be where or what pick they should be, whatever it is. Brent has nailed a lot of his picks and almost like, dodged a lot of grenades and landmines there that he probably should have hit. He didn't hit them either because he did his due diligence, he did his homework, and he had conviction on the picks he made, but also a little bit of luck. And he's rocked it. And it's funny, you look at like different teams and like that are running back heavy, and they're it's probably 3 or 4 teams that they're RB2 from a stud. Brent owns all of them. And so it's just this weird dynamic where, like, he has also been stacking all of these backup running backs, and they could pan out, they could not, but he has so many, even if 2 pan out, it's worth it. And so, yeah, you're so right. There's just so much there that can happen in those trades. And so, and there's a lot more to discuss there too about trade deadlines and everything else. But anyways, this has been a long show. Joe, thank you so much.
We gotta go.
Yes, we have to go. We've been recording for almost 2 hours. Cheers. I'm all out of drinkage. I have a water left, but yes, cheers to everyone else for coming into Drafts and Drafts. Thank you for joining us for episode 2, maybe 3. I don't know where this is going to get cut.
2 and 3, at least 3 and 4.
Yeah, so hopefully we'll see you soon. It might be a week or 2. We'd love to see more comments on YouTube, or text to Joe and I if you know us personally. Any feedback, and all feedback is warranted and welcomed. We're just really thankful for anyone that wants to take the time and listen. And thank you, and we'll talk to you guys soon.
Yeah, seriously. Thanks everybody who tunes in. Thank you so much for all the support. And obviously, congratulations to Brent, who's getting married. CyberKong's GM getting married this weekend, I think Saturday. So, congrats, Mazel Tov. All that.
That's right. We'll be at Brent's wedding on Saturday, and we'll talk soon. Peace.
All right. Peace out.